Star Network.
Transmission begins in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're listening to the voice of the Remnant Radio Network, hosted by Survival 401k founder and economist Ross Powell and founder of Homegrown Prepper and political commentator Chris Bauckham. Thank you for tuning in. This is a collaboration of dozens of former watchmen who now recognize the hour is late and the time for sounding the alarm from the rooftops has passed. Our team of contributors and guests, along with your hosts, are passionate and have been called to train up and equip you to stand strong during evil times. If you are here, you are the remnant. The signs are everywhere. Will we survive? The worst could happen. Fortify, prepare, and survive the coming storm. Only on Remnant Radio Network. Welcome to the Remnant Radio Network. I'm your co-host, Chris Bauckham.
And I'm Ross Powell. Welcome to the show, guys.
Ross, it's been a week since we had Wally Wood on, and I hope everyone enjoyed that episode. He really came in and shared some great prophetic information for us to pay attention to and for our audience. Just looking at the numbers on the listeners, it looked like we had a really good show. So we're grateful for him coming on the show and grateful that you're tuning back in this week. And we're going to try to do the same today as well with our special guest, Jill Powell from Remnant Canine 360.com, which is a first of its kind in terms of home security and canine training online to teach them the basics of obedience. You can also teach them detection techniques and patrol techniques so that you can secure your property should the grid go down or should the nation start to fall into disrepair and civil unrest ensue. And it does look like from the latest news over the past couple of weeks and what we've been seeing for a good 12 months now that we're headed in that direction.
Oh, you're dead on, Chris. I mean, I think what she's going to share is how people even in Houston, that they may not be in floodwaters, but if they're outside and they don't have electricity and the police are too busy handling all the other people and all of the other issues, they're having issues with looters and thieves, and the police are being shot at by looters. So this kind of situation, even in a natural disaster, the power grid's down, everybody else is busy just trying to save people from dying. This will help you. This will definitely be right up the alley of what you need.
Yeah, let's welcome Jill to the show, and we'll get into some questions about what she's doing to help you prepare for the remnant body of Christ and being a part of that and protecting your family and yourself as we move forward. Welcome to the show, Jill. It's great to have you.
Hi, Chris. Thank you. Thank you, Ross and Chris, for having me on the show. Good to be here.
Yeah, I had a chance to look at your mission online, of course, and I wanted to read that really quickly so our audience can know exactly what this is all about. It says, our mission is to lead the preparedness community in basic and advanced canine security training. Our goal is to help your household dog become an integral part of your survival team using our end-to-end expert 360 approach to specific obedience, scent detection, and patrol through cutting-edge distance learning technologies like online learning. We hope you gain the skills and confidence to train your canine to protect, defend, and survive. That's a great wrap-up of precisely what this is about, but I'd like to get into more, and Ross, I'm sure you have some specific questions as well about what inspired you to get into this and how it's coming along and when it's going to be ready, because this is exciting stuff.
Okay, well, I would say that this has been at least a year project, if not a little bit longer. Last year, I was at Prepper Camp in September. That's put on by Rick Austin and his wife. They do a great job bringing educational skills and tools and people together in the prepper community to learn new things, innovative things. And during that time at Prepper Camp, quite a few people had their household pets with them. So that was just an observation of mine that, preppers are somewhat into dogs, which is really cool. And then also at Prepper Camp, met the author Franklin Horton, which you guys have had on your show several times now. And he wrote the series, the Borrowed World series. So I started reading those books, and in his book, I believe it was book 2, he talked about he wished he had replaced his dog that had died the year before. So he no longer had a dog within this book, and that dogs are a great way to secure your family, or at least alert your family of potential danger. So with all of that said, I love dogs. I do training myself. I started talking with my husband and others about, hey, we're obviously avid preppers. We're a part of the survivalist community. Why, from what I can tell, all the research I've done, no one is offering this community the opportunity to be able to learn the skills that are necessary to make their household canine a part of that team. I want to say that when all traditional forms of law enforcement are in place, I'm not an advocate of you going out and trying to be that law enforcement. But when everything changes, our tagline is when everything changes, who are you going to trust? A dog is one of the most loyal members in your family and very intelligent. How can you make them be a part of that defense team that you have prepared for situations of chaos and grid down and even natural disaster?
Thanks, Jill. I mean, I think one of the big key pieces is how easily or how much time is only necessary to train your dog. I mean, many people have dogs, but they think, well, I see these police dogs. I don't think I'll ever be able to do that. And we're not suggesting that you have to be as good as a certified trained patrol dog for the police department or the military has. But there's a lot of things you can do with your household pet that brings up and you set your expectation correctly. Tell the audience, the level of effort it would take to train your dog to, say, smell out gunpowder or ammonium nitrate or some kind of bomb-making materials. How often do you need to train them, and what's the level of effort for them to do it?
Really, if you spend 3 to 4 times a week with your dog, at least 15 to 20 minutes per session, you will be able to accomplish a lot in that time to train your canine to imprint on certain odors that you want them to be able to detect. So, for example, gunpowder or ammonium nitrate, if you're training your dog on explosives, it seems to me that would be very helpful in a grid down situation. If you're having to move, you've decided that you can't shelter in, that you need to shelter out, and maybe you don't have forms of transportation other than your feet, that your dog could be an asset in kind of forging that journey and clearing the path to make sure that there is no danger that could come upon your family.
So the level of effort is not hours and hours and weekends at a camp where you have to go. You can actually just take your time, and through the technology, you can actually have it on your tablet or your phone, and you can actually take your technology with you and train at any time in any place, correct?
Correct. And we also have an audio feature, an audio-only feature on our curriculum and our design. So you can, if you really want to drill down and just hear the audio piece again while you're out in the field training, we have that option as well. So what I really like about this is a lot of times you go to class, you get a lot of good information during class, but you're not able to go back and replay that class per se. You have to commit as much knowledge to memory as you can. And with this online course, you can play the courses over and over and over again and really hone in on the skills that are necessary and refine your own technique as a trainer, plus help your canine be the best that they can be.
You mentioned a few minutes ago about law enforcement, and it almost sounded like maybe someone in law enforcement would be concerned that we're trying to, or you're trying to take their job or something to that effect. But realistically, this is what preparedness is all about. It's not about when times are good. That's when you do your preparing. It's about when times are out of control, like what the folks, for instance, in Houston are going through, where the police are tied up with trying to do rescue efforts. So the looting has begun. Now, the looting is just the start of general civil chaos. Then you get roving gangs and bands and people if things persist long enough. Now, we talk about emergencies. In Houston, in this case, eventually will drain and it will dry out and they'll recover in some form, at least in some parts. But when we're talking about preparedness for a grid down situation, that grid could be down for a long, long time. We're not talking like a month. We're talking years. And so this may come down to the very essence of survival and protecting your family. And you can bet that law enforcement is not going to come around to protect you in those moments, not because they don't want to help people. They're going to be busy protecting their own. And they're going to take those dogs with them because that is one of the most valuable assets you can have, especially considering you can't power a camera and you don't have a phone and you can't call anyone to help.
I don't know that it's going to be a problem in terms of law enforcement. I think they would be very supportive of this if you're using it to secure your property. It's less work for them, and it's also an extension of them, and it will attract people's curiosity and support for what they're already doing out here, at least the way I see it.
Oh, I would agree, Chris. I mean, I think it complements law enforcement and military folks. And many folks are actually in that business. I think that would definitely make their jobs easier, knowing that many of their neighbors are well prepared as well. I mean, I think that's a really big thing. Jill, what do you think?
And well, I just really think actually our patrol trainer that's on staff is currently in law enforcement. He's been in law enforcement for 32 years and has actively been training patrol and explosive narcotic dogs in law enforcement. And he really brings a lot of expertise to our curriculum and to our online training. I think the more important key that he's really done for us is he's really refined the training for us that says in a grid down situation, these are the specific skills that your dog is going to need to know and to be trained well on if law enforcement is not coming. And he's been very conscientious about not just trying to feed information to people so that they can say, hey, look, our dog is really cool and can do all these things. He's been very conscientious on let's teach this community, the survivalist community, specific patrol skills that not only protects your family, but protects the dog as well.
Toby is very conscious about that, and we had some documentation part of our curriculum that a military trainer had given us, and he reviewed it and said, well, we don't teach this anymore, we don't teach this because you're not going to need it. And if you ran it through the sieve of survival needs, and once we filtered through that, there's a lot of things that we pared back because you're never going to use them, and you wouldn't be able to train them. So like extracting a dog out of a car, we're never going to use that, or you're not going to guard somebody like the military does and have a dog, right on your flank guarding a prisoner. We're not going to take any prisoners, so we're going to try to avoid contact at all possibilities. So a lot of things that you may need in a military situation, you don't need as a prepper or as somebody at your home. So there's some really great insights and a very concise delivery of the curriculum on what you're going to be able to do and learn it over and over. And one of the things Jill mentioned about the audio is that you can listen to your car on your way to going to work, and you can reinitiate your knowledge going to and from work, or sitting there listening to it while you're doing work at your office. So there's a lot of things that benefit of the audio files, as well as you can augment all of your learning on a regular basis.
One thing, Chris, I wanted to point out is you said that, when everything's good, of course, we are very much supporters of law enforcement and military. But if you wait until they are no longer available because the situation lingers for months and months on end, if not possibly years, and you don't have these skills trained in your dog prior to the events happening, you are way too late to the game. So what I see going on in the world right now makes me want to be more prepared and to use every asset that I have within my control and within my family, that if a grid down situation happens where traditional forms of law enforcement and everyday life are no longer the norm, I want to make sure that I am, again, Remnant Canine 360, that I have a 360 security system in place that protects all the hard work that we've been preparing for, to include our household pet.
That's fascinating and awesome, really, what you're offering. And let me say this, the timing is divine. If we look at what's going on in Charlottesville, and we look at what's going on in Berkeley and these other places where there's social unrest, I mean, forget the grid down for a minute, just the social unrest and the growing revolution in the streets is happening. The police are being told to stand down. So they're already dereliction on upholding the law there, but they're being told to do that by the authorities in charge. So the authorities are obviously, for some reason, showing some type of compromise in their ability to protect the citizens, which is the job of the police. It's not an indictment on all police forces out there. There are plenty that are good, and the people that are there to do their job are probably great officers of the law. But what I'm saying is that those in authority seem to be telling them to stand down and let this happen and let the violence happen. If it's like this when the power is running, and it's like this when things are going well, then what's it going to be like when they're not? If people are this compromised already. And so I'm just fascinated by your choice here of things to provide the public. What a valuable resource. Now, let's say that I'm interested in signing up for this program, and I am a Chihuahua enthusiast. What do you suggest in terms of breed of dog and the time involved? And then we'll get a little bit into where people can go and the cost involved in this in terms of investment.
Depending on what your household pet is. So, for example, a Chihuahua, I would not recommend be your patrol dog. Our patrol dogs need to be a little larger, at least 45 pounds or more, and they need, I would really recommend either a working or herding group type dog. So Australian cattle dog, German Shepherd, Dutch Shepherd, Belgian, that kind of dog. But Chihuahua, that's the example that you brought up, makes great scent detection dogs. Actually, I've been told by a couple of trainers that Chihuahuas do better work a lot of times than their German Shepherds in scent work. So as long as the dog has the drive to do the work that you're asking them to do, it's going to work for you. So it really just depends. I would really recommend that people or families sit down and decide what their goals are for the training, for their household canine, and what type of household canine they have currently in their home. Or if they're saying, hey, this is really cool, I'm going to go out and get a puppy or get a dog from a rescue or a shelter, then they can go with those goals in mind to pick out that pet.
Tell us about the level of sophistication that for the user needs to have before they even start, or if they have a new user can even do this, as well as what the kind of levels of training can they expect to go through, and how they stack up against each other, or do they complement each other going forward, so the person that starts with no dog and wants to do this can get themselves a dog and start from A to Z. So tell us about how that's all going to work for them.
If you have little or no dog training experience with your current dog, or if you're looking to secure a dog, I would really suggest that you start with our 360 boot camp. That's our specific obedience package. And what's really great and different about this package is that most basic obedience classes teach you the basics: sit down, stay, and heel. What we've done with this package is not only will you learn those skills, but you will learn specific obedience skills that are going to be important for you to continue your success in training scent detection and or patrol, such as go out and directionals and things like that. So I really suggest, if you have little or no obedience training with your dog, that you start there. It will help with your frustration level and help you to gain the confidence that you need in scent detection and or patrol. That takes about 10 weeks, depending on how often you work with your dog, 10 to 12 weeks. And also the age of your dog. If you have a puppy, obviously some of this is going to take a little bit longer because you cannot speed up a puppy's growth. You have to give them time to mature and reach those levels. With an adult dog, obviously that's a little different. Then with scent detection, that package is very straightforward, gives you very straightforward steps on how to do that and how to imprint your dog on the specific scents that you want them to be able to detect for you. The most important thing about our scent detection package is you do have to set a goal or what you want your dog to be imprinted on. For example, if you want to imprint your dog on explosives, you cannot go back and then change your mind and say, never mind, I want to do narcotics. Because the dog is basically going to be alerting on a scent, and you're not going to know if you have trained them on explosives and narcotics. You're not going to know when they alert on that odor if you're supposed to run for your life or confiscate the narcotic. So you just really, again, need to take some time and really think through what your goals are. That training takes about 4 months from end to end. Again, depending on how often you work with your dog, how well your dog's responding, again, and the age of the dog. Patrol is, again, age of the dog is going to be a huge factor. If you're looking to get a puppy that specifically that you're wanting them to do patrol work, on our website, remnantcanine360.com, it gives you characteristics of a good working dog and goes through what you're going to want to look for when you go and purchase that puppy. There's some actual field tests that you can do to try to pick the best puppy that you can. But patrol work, again, is really the willingness and drive of your dog to not only drive for you and do the work, but to bite. But again, Toby, our trainer, does a great job giving you tools. I like to call them skills and drills to bring out the best in your dog to build those characteristics.
Oh, that's fascinating. Now, so we're talking about a pretty good span of time to go through the entire program. If you add up all the weeks and you turn them into months, and then you can turn it into, it seems like it would be over a year, just from what
about, I would say 15 to 18 months. If you do all 3 packages, if you're consistent about spending that 3 times a week for 15 to 20 minutes each time that you're going out to train, you're looking at probably about a year, 15 months.
And why wouldn't you? I mean, if people take their dogs out anyhow, and you take them out for a walk or whatever you do, at least 3 times a week you do that, maybe more. We might as well make that constructive time. And it, just like you would educate a child, you're doing this for your puppy. The goal here is to make sure that, I mean, just think, if nothing happens and somehow the United States rises out of what would appear to be the ashes that we're falling into, and everything is fine, then you're going to have a great family dog that protects you. His security is going to be unmatched by a drone, by cameras, by sensors, by anything else. And they're going to be able to do all of these wonderful things if they're trained right, and if they're able, especially to have that bite, that drive bite that you talked about, or bite drive, I'm sorry, that you talked about. So,
and I just, for the prepper community, the survivalist community, I just really think that we're already in that mindset. I mean, you don't expect your family to know how to go and fire a firearm without teaching them. You spend time training your family in specific things or responsibilities that they're going to be in charge of if things hit the fan. So why, if you're not already in that mindset to train your family to do specific jobs during those times, why not add the most loyal creature on the earth, a dog, to that team? To me, it's just a no-brainer.
No, I would agree with you, and the value is tremendous here. Now, I know that you're going to have a blog where people will be able to read articles, and there'll be some social channels where you regularly share information that's going on and other things that people need to know. And with the audio and the tips that come at the end of these videos, there's going to be a lot more in this package than or if you were to take on the full package or the individual packages, there'll be a lot more that people stand to gain, along with some consulting that's offered throughout. And I don't know the exact price of all of that, but I do see here, just looking at the site, that this could be comparable to if you were to go into that full purchase, you'd be getting about a $15,000 value on training for, it looks like $749. I mean, that's unbelievable. In other words, this was an untouchable thing for most people, especially in the prepping community, just because we have to be wary of our budgets for the things we're buying, because we're also living normal life and spending money on normal everyday things. And now this is within reach. I think that's a pretty outstanding offer.
Right. We wanted to make it accessible to folks. And one key piece about that cost as well is most, at least for patrol anyways, most of those dogs and the business of getting them trained in that particular skill, it's most common that you're supposed to drop your dog off somewhere and the people are going to reprogram your dog for you, and then you're going to pick that dog up, after X number of weeks, and then your dog is going to perform X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, you're going to have a Roomba.
Right. Well, in my experience with training dogs, I wouldn't be able to send my dog off somewhere and then bring them back home and expect them to respond to me because I haven't been the one to train them. Even if you send your dog off to those types of facilities and bring them back, there's still a transition time where that dog is going to have to be transitioned to respond to your commands and your handling. So why not just start with your dog responding to you and building bonds with your dog from the get-go? Why are you letting someone else do the work that is really yours to do? If you're wanting that type of relationship with your canine so that they will respond to you in these high stress, high anxiety situations, because when things start hitting the fan, it's not going to be a time for kumbaya. It's going to be pretty chaotic, and you're going to want to know that your dog is going to stand beside you.
That's awesome, Jill. So there's a lot of work to be done. It's not something you're going to do overnight. You have to have patience. You have to recognize that a dog just doesn't automatically get trained and you pour water on it and suddenly it's a Billy badass dog, right? This dog's going to have to be taking time with you. And again, as Jill said, you're building bonds. So how long did it take you to master your weapons training, or how long did it take you to build your food stores or your water stores or anything else that you're doing for your preparations? Anything worth having is worth doing, and with doing it right. So these kind of things are very important, and I really applaud Jill for what she's doing with this, because it's an amazing feat, and it's come a long way in a year.
Yeah, and we have great trainers on staff. If you check out our About Us page on remnantcanine360.com, our 360 boot camp trainer has a lot of background in animal behavior. And then, again, I mentioned our patrol trainer has a lot of experience in law enforcement and working with dogs. And he also handles explosives and scent detection. So he has that knowledge as well. So we got people on staff that are ready to help, because we know that not all dogs fit neatly into a box. You're going to run into some individual challenges, because just like us, we have different personalities and different quirks. So does your dog. So you're going to probably at some point through this training be scratching your head and saying, how do we get around this? And we are here to help you. We want to see you succeed. We want this to be, again, as part of our name, the 360, the holistic idea of protecting all that you've worked for.
This is the only offer of its kind that we know of really worldwide. I mean, we haven't seen this anywhere else, where you can do this type of, or this level of training right in your home, right in your backyard, and have a dog that is literally up to the level of other outstanding dogs out there that work for law enforcement and the military. At least you can get close to it. That's not a guarantee of this, but at least you can get some of those critical skills to protect you, your homestead, your family, and others that are on your property that you want there instead of the ones you don't. So this is just an outstanding offer. You should go to remnantcanine360.com. That's remnantcanine360. That's the number 360.com. And you can find out more about Jill, and Ross is on there as well. And you can find out about the trainers and the dogs that are used in this training. And you can reach out to them with a Contact Us page as well. I just want to thank you for coming on the show today, Jill. I know it took time out of your busy schedule, but this is such an important message, especially in this time of civil unrest, chaos, and what we're looking at around the world, which is a potentially hot war nationwide, or worldwide, I'm sorry. And we want to thank everyone for listening to us today and tuning in to the Remnant Radio Network. Jill, were there any closing comments before we finish up the show today?
Oh, no, thank you for having me on the show and the opportunity to talk to you about something that's near and dear to my heart, a passion that I have. I'm wanting to help other people, again, make their family team, to include their canine, to be the best that they can be in these really unsettling times.
I would agree with that. And make sure you visit her again at remnantcanine360.com. They'll also be at Prepper Camp in Saluda, North Carolina in September, and that's a good place to go and meet them. I think that there will be a presentation involved, so you will get to see it with your own two eyes. Make sure you tune in. Make sure you share the podcast with others in your network, your community, your friends, your family, those who could use the message of inspiration and preparedness, and pass it around. Do some likes on Spreaker, iTunes, and send it off on YouTube and everywhere else. God bless each and every American. Have a great week.
Thanks, everyone.
I'm Ross Powell with Survival401k.com. When society collapses, food and water scarcity becomes real, travel is restricted, and people become violent and mean, then it's too late. Many folks today only have resources to last them a few days. This doesn't have to be you. Time is urgent, and Survival401k is here to help you prepare now. To get your retirement funds to purchase metals, prepping supplies, and the like, call today for a free 30-minute consultation by visiting Survival401k.com. Survival is your only option.